This presentation is going to go over two things. First is how to make an audio PowerPoint. These are very powerful tools that you can use. Super simple to do, but it's going to give you a step-by-step process. And the second part is if you want to take that audio PowerPoint and convert it into a video that can be posted into multiple locations, including YouTube, Blackboard, sent to clients. So this is going to cover both parts. This presentation is using a version of PowerPoint that might be slightly different than yours. If you're using an older edition of PowerPoint, you're still going to be able to do all the same things. Most of it's in the same locations. It may just have a slightly different look. The buttons may be round instead of square, little things like that. If you're using a newer version of this, as far as I have been able to see, it looks exactly the same. But then again, we don't know how long this video will be around, so who knows? We may be on PowerPoint version 2000 when you're watching this one. Now, what you're seeing right here on this slide is sort of the presentation that I'm making right now. It's an early part of the presentation. This shouldn't look unfamiliar to you. You should see the slides that you're working on right here. Now, I don't have this pulled up, but your notes would be down here. And right now we are on what's called the home page. That's the page that most people would be working their PowerPoint from. Now, once you've got all your images and things like this, what we're going to want to look for when we start to do our recording is the slideshow button. The reason we want to look for the slideshow button is that that's the button that we're going to do our recording. When you click that button, this is what will come up. What we're looking for is to make sure that these boxes are all clicked. The reason we want those to be all clicked is that it's our narration, it's our timing, it's our media controls. If that's all clicked, it's going to make life much easier for you. The other couple of things that are on here that people want to make sure they know and I'll be using, this is the button you would press if you want to start your presentation from the beginning, and this is the button that you're going to press if you want to just work from the current slide you're on. I don't really worry about much of the other ones because I just don't happen to use them. The one that we will be looking at right now is going to be this button, because this button is basically going to be the one that's going to be controlling our audio. So what you would do is simply, I'm just erasing a few things, is what you would simply do is press that button. Now when you press that button, this is going to come up. Now, this gives you two very important things. You can either start your recording from your current slide, or you can start the recording from the very beginning. I tend to record per slide because I make the slide and then before I forget everything, I record from the current slide. You can also, though, make the entire presentation if you want and just record from the beginning. Either way will work, but you also may erase something and then want to go back and you can just record from that current slide. So you've hit the record from the current slide or from the beginning, either one. If you have two monitors, you're going to see a view like this, whereas on one side of the monitor, you're going to see the slide you're recording, and on the other side of the monitor, you're going to see your actual recording slide. Now, you don't have to have two monitors to do this, but I do point this out because sometimes people are worried when they have two monitors, they can't figure out how things work. For most of us, we're going to have one monitor, and this is what's going to appear. Now, this is where we have slightly different looks depending on the version that you're working on as far as PowerPoint is concerned. The buttons that we're going to be using to record are basically these buttons up here. Of course, I don't think I need to explain too much what the record, the stop, and the replay button is. I will, though, say this about the stop button. If you hit the stop button, it's not the same as a pause button. A pause button would pause it. Stop button means it's going to erase everything that you have done, and you have to do it over, which is okay if that's what you want to do. Just have to understand it's not a pause button. I've made that mistake several times and then always curse afterwards because I realize I hit pause. This button right here, these two buttons, they're just simply going to move your slides forward or backwards to the next one or the last one you just had. And again, that's just if you're going to want to record more than one slide at a time. The image that you're seeing here in the middle is actually from a version of the PowerPoint presentation that I made for a class. It was an introduction, and I'm going to be using this one as we move through learning these different things. Some of the other things that are interesting are down here. Now, you may be seeing that I've been drawing on the slides, and that's because I've been using this pen right here. So if you click that button, it's going to give you a pen. You can come over here and pick a color. In this case, I'm picking yellow because I've got a black background. And so as I draw, using my mouse to draw, that pen is thus making those lines. Now, the other one you can pick is the highlighter. I'm going to do this in blue. So this highlighter right here, and I've picked blue, and you can see it just makes a wider line. Now, personally, I find that a little bit harder to control. I kind of like the pen better. But you may also say, hey, she just erased that stuff. It went away. So I'm going to do this. What I did was I clicked on this right here. Now, it will highlight once you click on it, and that's called the eraser. I took the eraser, I simply put it on top of the line, I clicked it, and it made the line go away. Super, super simple. Over here, this is just letting me know that I'm using a microphone to record. I don't know what else you would use to record. This little symbol right here that you see in the very corner of this, now this wouldn't be on your slide generally. This is because I've taken an image of a slide that I've used. This actually just tells me that there is a recording, but you will not see that on your slide. We'll talk about that image later on. Two of the other really helpful things that are here is this notes section right here. Now, the thing is that you hopefully have some notes that you put into your slide on the notes page. And if you're like me, you kind of forget what you're going to say. Well, if you put your notes on there, when you click that note button, you can see the notes will come up. Now, how you're going to make these larger or smaller is by using this. Unless you have really good eyes, most of the time you need to click this to make those letters large enough that you can see it. The other one that you may use from time to time is going to be the clear button. Let's say I've recorded this and I said, oh God, I really hated what I just said. I goofed up. Well, you can then simply clear the recording on the current slide, and that would clear what was just on this current slide. I would be really careful about clearing recordings on all slides because then you start over from the beginning. But I have done that when I'm using basically the same presentation but for a different class, and so maybe I want to change something, but very, very rarely have I used that one. We really are wanting to perhaps clear what I've just done on this current slide because I realize I've made a mistake and I'm just going to do it again. Now, once I have hit stop and I end the show, which hopefully I don't have to show you how to do that, you just right click and you find end show, it's going to bring you back to this particular page. This is the first page or the page that I'm working on. Now, here's where this little symbol down in the corner becomes important. If you do not see that symbol, that means you have not recorded on that slide. You may have thought you recorded on the slide, but for one reason or another, the recording did not go. But you also want to check that recording. You want to make sure that it's accurate and that it's the full recording. To do that, you're simply going to place your mouse over that little speaker button, and when you click on it, this image will appear. To play the recording, you're just going to go ahead and click this button, and then in here you're going to watch the actual recording play. These buttons just simply let you go forward or backwards, and this is just a volume button. So if you've recorded it correctly, you will see all those images. So remember how I told you might use that clear button when you want to re-record a slide because you've recorded it, doesn't sound right, and you want to go back? I'm going to tell you right now I'm on the 4th try for this slide, so you're going to get to know that clear button pretty well. Anyway, what you're seeing here is basically the slides that I have used and made for a certain presentation. As you can see over here in the right corner, um, I've already recorded on it. So what I'm really wanting to do is maybe check some things at this point. So I can do this by two ways. I can either just play from the current slide. So I've done something, I just want to hear what it sounds like, or right next to it is I can make it play from the entire presentation. Now, the reason this is really nice to have it this way is that let's say I have recorded something and I don't like what I have on a current slide, or I need to update it. I want to change something about that slide. I can click on that current slide. So in this case, this is the beginning slide, and I could just go ahead and re-record over it. Now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to want to do a few things. Usually the way I usually recommend people to do this is to go ahead and go to where it says record slideshow. We used that before. And if you click on that, what's going to happen is you're going to get this drop down menu that you saw before, the record on current slide or record from the beginning. But what we're interested this time is the clear button. So what you can do is you can clear the timing on the current slide, or you can clear the narration on the current slide. You want to clear both so that that narration and that timing is taken away. The big thing is just to make sure that you're on the correct slide. So in this case, if I was to do this, it would be clearing the things from my first slide. Now there is another way to do this, and that is you could go down to this, you could highlight it and delete it. The only problem with doing that one is that it doesn't always clear the timing on the slide. And so sometimes people go back and they can't figure out why this timing is there, and they can't figure out how to get rid of the timing, which is why I'm just really much more in favor of using the methodology of coming down and using these buttons. Just make sure you don't hit timing on all slides or clear on all slides. Now, the other thing is let's say that you have played this presentation and you begin to realize that you've left some large gaps between when you start the slide and when you start to speak, or that there's large gaps at the end. There are things that you can do, and now this is more sophisticated and something I'd say play around with once you've gotten comfortable with how to make PowerPoint presentations. But what you want to do is you want to click on this audio button down here. Now, when you click on the audio button, what that's going to do is to bring up a new set of tools, you might want to say. And what you're looking for is up here, the format and the playback button. Now, I have clicked the playback button, and when I did, what this did is it brought me up some choices. And one of the things I might want to do is trim the audio. So I've noticed that I've got this large gap before or after, and it brings up this menu right here. Now, what this menu is going to allow you to do is to actually trim your audio a little bit. So this is the beginning, and of course, this is the end. And you'll use these buttons in the middle just to sort of play it, and it tells you exactly how long the recording is. So in this case, for this slide, it's 1:43 minutes. Now, what I'm looking for are these little wiggly lines right here. The little wiggly lines are where I actually see recording. Now, let's just say I've had this big pause for some reason. What's kind of neat is that I can actually take this little button right here and I could move it. I could move it this way a little bit. And so if I have a big blank space, I could actually move it up to where that blank space is. Or let's say that I didn't hit end and I've got a big blank over here. Again, I can take this, I could move it this way, and I could get rid of that. Now, that's something that's a little bit more sophisticated. I don't have to do it much because I've gotten pretty good at this, but I will say in the beginning, on a couple of good audio slides I didn't want to redo, I had gone back and fiddled with that. Again, it's a little bit more sophisticated, not something you need to do. Once you've got your audio all done, most people just go ahead and save. Let's talk about saving though. Now, I want to talk a little bit about saving the file. You save the file like you save any other file. But because there's going to be a part 2 on how to make a video, what I'm going to really recommend is that you save this file 2 different ways. One, you might want to just call it how to make an audio PowerPoint, and then save it a second time by adding the words audio PPP. Now, this is going to be important because when we go to convert this, we're actually going to lose a file. So you want to keep your original file. You love it, it's good, it's an audio, and then save it a second time with a slightly different name because we want to use the one that has the slightly different name when we convert to a video if you decide to do that. But it's also good to have 2 versions of it so that if you do mess up the audio on one of them, you can go back and retrieve the other copy of it. You've put a lot of work into this, and it just is a shame if you lose everything. So this is sort of the end of part 1. If you would like to learn how to make a video, stay with me and we'll do that next. For the most part, the PowerPoint audio is going to be enough. But for some of you, you may want to take this PowerPoint audio that you've made and you may want to post it to YouTube, or you may want to send it to somebody in a video format, an MP4 format. So what you're going to want to do is convert your presentation from a PowerPoint into an MP4 video. And you can do that right there within PowerPoint. It will do it for you. Again, your version may look slightly different than my version, but basically it works the same. You just have to find the buttons. So at this point, what we want to do is to create a video. Now, one of the things you did, hopefully in the last one, is that you saved this as an audio PPP. But notice that I've changed the name now and I've changed it to an MP4. Now, this is important because you're going to lose this file. This file is going to convert to an MP4. So if you haven't saved the other one as an audio PPP, then you lose that if you convert that one. And you might want that in the future if you want to make some changes. You really can't make changes to the MP4. Once you've converted the file, the other file has disappeared. So it's just a little hint that I give people. It makes life much easier in the future if you ever want to make some edits. So just have 2 files. Now what you're going to look for is this word down here, export, because that's what we're doing. We're exporting this into a different file format. So if you click that button, this will come up. And you can see that second button says create a video, so you click on that. But you're not going to go right to here. Nope, nope, nope. Please don't do that. Why? Because we want to take a look at the file format. Right now, it's at a full HD. Now, for most of us, that is going to be simply too large of a file for us to use. And we don't really need at that high quality for what we're doing. So we're just going to use a little down arrow button there and we're going to select a different quality. What I usually do for most of my work is right here in this middle one. You can even use the lower one if you want, but this middle one seems to work pretty well for YouTube and for mobile phones and for other situations. So make sure you click that and then we can go on to save it. So if everything looks right, you've got this set for sort of a level of DVD that we want. You have use recording and timing narration. You then click the create video button. Now, you're going to say to me, why are you showing me this? I know what this is. Well, there is a reason. And I cannot tell you how many times people have said, I can't find my video after I created it. I don't think it got saved. Why? Because it automatically tends to pick the local C drive. So unless you want to save it at the local C drive, which most people do not, make sure that you scroll up and that you select either your file or your desktop. So you have to scroll up and you can find desktop. That's usually where I save everything when I'm working on it for the first time. I can always then move it over to a folder that I want. Then you go ahead and click save. Now, if this is going along and you've done right, this is what you're going to see at the very bottom of your screen. What we're looking for is this right here. What this is telling me is that it is progressing to save it as an MPO file. Now notice that it doesn't do it instantly. There is a I don't know what you call that, but a menu basically that's showing how it goes. Depending on how big your file is, will depend on how long it will take to convert. Some I've done many of videos that are an hour and a half lecture, and those can take up to a half an hour to convert. So when you go to convert, just hit convert and then go away. Just go away, go do something else, come back. Sometimes it feels like it's not moving, but it is. It will take a while to convert. Now, if it's a little short video like this one, it won't take very long, but you're going to wait until it completely converts, and then it's going to say nothing. It just shows up and it's done. It's now an MP4. So you now have a video. You will notice when you look at it in your filing system that it's going to have a slightly different look than a PowerPoint because it's not a PowerPoint anymore. It's now a video, and you can post it just like any other video that you do. Um, it's not really a hard thing to do, but it is something that's new. So I'd probably just do a couple of practice ones. I wouldn't start out trying to do a big fancy one first. Just get a couple of slides like and give it a shot there. See if you can save them. Try making edits, whatever it is that you like to do. But it really is not that hard once you get the hang of it, and you will find a fabulous tool to use in your tool belt. Have a good one, folks.